Okay, hey, cool. Hey, Bliviat boys and girls. My name's Creative Communist, and welcome to the first episode of Squeaky Chair Review. So, starting off strong, we have 10 out of 10 squeakiness, honestly. But that's not really why we're here. We're here for episode 1 of Sudrian headcanons. Basically, when I don't feel like uploading an episode of the Sudrian Tales, I have a list of headcanons for my series. This can range from background characters to main characters. So I figured I would start with there's I figured I'll start with the first main gang, the American gang. So let's open a cup of ginger ale, if I can get the burners out, and pour it in a red soda cup. I cannot wait to watch this video back and cringe at this part. And yet it still has that fresh mic smell. So yeah, I think let's hop into the video. Okay, so our first engine up is Stewie, or aka Comet. So I'm gonna put my mic on its stands like it should be, and I'll explain my headcanon for Stewie/Comet. So, Comet was built in the early 1910s. He was built for the Central Railroad of New Jersey. The Central Railroad of New Jersey. And so, ginger ale, hashtag not sponsored. So basically, he was built in 1910 and pulled fast commuter trains. He pulled one named commuter train, which would later be turned into an express service called the Blue Comet. That's where I originally got Comet's original name, Comet, from the Blue Comet. And so my AU is that, he would start out with commuter trains in the early 1910s because he was the prototype of this class. And he was given the specific blue livery that slowly, in this blue, gold and silver livery, and it's slowly fading away, representing how much he cared for his railroad at the time. So, moving on into the late 40s, when the Central Railroad of New Jersey was starting to go bankrupt, and the final nail in the coffin is when the express flagship train, the Blue Comet, when the kitchen car caught fire, and which put his sister out of action, and eventually leading to her withdrawal, which was 33-3, and so he was with two other siblings, being 33-31, 30. It was 331, 332, 333. His sister, 333, was eventually scrapped and withdrawn with the first of the three of the G3s, This is his class. He's a G3. He was the first. Oh no, his sister was the first move drawn. Then eventually his cousin, or not, his brother, number 331, and this who was starting to be replaced by Diesels. And my AU is that the Central Railroad of New Jersey goes bankrupt in 1945 instead of it going bankrupt in the 40s, or like not really necessarily 1945, but like kind of somewhere around the World War II, kind of like 41. So in 1941, the final nail in the coffin is when the Blue Comet Express train became a runaway after he was told to pull the train. Brake test was not done properly, and since during World War II, very little maintenance was getting taken out on the engines because most of the line was required to move war material for the war in Europe, and then later in the Pacific. They were told they did not have enough time to do brake testing and just send the passenger train as coming through was a heavy armored train. So eventually, when they took off, his brakes failed, and when they tried to slow down, they failed. They caught on fire, similar to like how James' brakes caught on fire in like The Adventure Begins, and then they end up derailing, killing half of the passengers, his crew, almost killing Comet / Stewie himself, leaving him kinda scarred. So then that's the end of Comet. Like that's into Comet's character for now. I really have nothing to say for Comet at the moment, and I think I have plans to give him like 5 episodes. 3 of them being featured with his great friend of his, Brian, who is his Pacific M6 class. And you might be wondering why did I change his name from Comet to Stewie. Honestly, I thought I've been watching lots and lots of Family Guy, and I figured, originally Frisk, which was the Pacific M6. I said I was in a Discord call with a couple friends. Apex was one of them, and I said, hey, the characters Comet and Frisco, they give off such Brian and Stewie vibes. So I suggested we name them Brian and Stewie, and they said that works and it sticks with them. And now that's how they got their names. So I think we'll move on to Brian next. You mentioned him a lot. So here's Brian. Brian's a Southern Pacific M6, which was a 260 mogul. So he was built in 1915 and ran trains from. So I'm not the Southern Pacific ran trains from Florida to up to the top of the states, and sometimes occasionally in Canada. Alright, so back to what I was saying. Brian / Frisk, he is originally based off the Frisco 1255. I just don't like. I like that engine, but I could never just ride him into Sudrian Tales for some reason. I just hate it. I think one of the reasons why, because I was talking with Apex about, I was like, our roster seems odd. We have 3 mountain types, 2 Hudsons, 1 040, 3 diesels, which have been yet to introduce. I will be introducing them in the series, and now 1 B unit, 1 Pacific and 2 Hudsons. I think I literally just said 2 Hudsons earlier. But yeah. So, you know, what we're talking about. Okay, so what if we changed a couple characters? That's when we went from having, except, well, we didn't have the 3 diesels yet, but we went from adding the 3 diesels to changing Frisk to M6 and renaming him Frank. Then we decided to name him Brian. Brian, again, like, Brian came way later, like, before we even decided to name Comet Stewie. Believe it or not, Comet was supposed to be female and was supposed to be going to originally date Brian. But, well, I decided to change that because, like, well, honestly, I can kind of do something with Hank with him being trans. I know, and I was like, well, I'll find a way to work that in if I even decide to write Hank, and so yeah, I went through and I was like, hey, alright, cool. So yeah, let's get on to Brian. So Brian, like I said, built in 1915 in Alco. He worked on a small branch line. He called a branch line express train, which kinda was a commuter train to a large express train, which was connected to another express from Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Railroad, which got transferred to New York Central, which then was taken up to Michigan and transferred to the Grand Western, and then transferred into the early days of the CP, or Canadian Pacific Railroad. So it doesn't look bad out of context, because that also stands for something else. But yeah, so, and also I just remember what I was saying with this Pacific Railroad. It ran trains from Florida to up towards Maine, kinda up there, and eventually went up to Michigan, and then later it would try to expand in Canada, only being successful of getting a branch line and 3 miles of track right up there. And these would later be sold off when they merged with Union Pacific. And so Brian really had nothing for going up on besides running the branch line train, the occasional freighter. The line was going to close. Branch line was going to close. Brian would have been out of a job and withdrawn 2 years into his life. Then he was told to sneak out with a convoy of old 440s that were getting ready to go get cut up, and they were going to get sent up to Michigan, where 3 of them would be preserved and the other 5 will get cut up. And so he disguised as the engine transporting the 440s up to Michigan. Then he lived up his life on the Grand Trunk Western before being withdrawn in 45. Then being bought by the Pack Controller in 46 and didn't get shipped to Soto until 1950s. All the American engines were purchased by Pack Controller in the late 40s, but didn't get shipped into the 50s because some of them started to get restoration work done on them, and then some were somewhat ready, just really needed to be trialed. So again, Brian really had nothing going on for him besides just trying to fix the closure of the branch line. And I think we fitting to move on to our next Southern Pacific engine. Jesus, do I have something to say for midnight? Although here's Brian. It's just really just a black steam locomotive on the sides. Nothing special. I have plans to give him like a Pacific daylight livery. But God forbid, I honestly don't think Midnight. I have so much to say for Midnight, so drink our ginger ales or snacks, and let me quick fix this shed before it falls over, and maybe. This is worse than that. This is worse than the passive-aggressive alarm clock my cousin bought for his sister's birthday. Bad idea. Okay, now that shit's fixed. And it's not. Okay, welcome to Fixing Train Sheds, episode 1-ish. Oh god, I decided to put Brian on top of that shed. Alright, you know, which one on the stable shed? Actually, hold on. Okay, Midnight! So let's get on to him. Like I was saying, I have so much to say for Midnight, because Midnight has such a long history. So I'm gonna try to get this done and try to get his history done as fast as okay. So starting a timer. 17 minutes. Video hit 17 minutes. Now I'm gonna. Okay, so Midnight was originally supposed to be a Southern Pacific cab forward built in the early 30s, but I decided to change that to make him a GS32 bought by the Western Pacific and had custom smoke reflectors on. And later I lost his tender, and then eventually had Hero to be the Midnight replacement before eventually having him Midnight's original tender back, and now he's back in service. Then I repainted him into a Union Pacific Challenger. Why? I don't know. I think I got bored. Then I want him to be a Union Pacific big boy for the series, and then I switched him back to a GF4 with smoke deflectors, and now then I gave him an American Daylight scheme, and then I literally just gave him this half-done Southern Pacific Daylight livery, the wartime Daylight livery, and that is literally Midnight's history summed up in less than a minute. So yeah, basically he was supposed to be in a different engine in a different series before I decided to literally replace him in for something else in another series. But I decided to make him a GS4 for this series. And then I have plans for a secret that's going to review in this season. I think maybe season 3. But that's a secret. I'm not gonna say. But Midnight, he goes by the name 4450, or goes by the number 4450, which is a running joke because the GS4s originally only ran from, I think it was like 4440 to 4449, which 4449 is preserved, and I don't think he's running anymore. Sad face. And I think it will be 75 years old, I believe. It's coming out soon. Or maybe it was last year, I'm not sure. Why am I speaking a monotone voice? I don't know, it just flowed. Because my name's Creative Communist, and I'm going to enact a 5-year plan on you if you do not subscribe. Yeah, I feel like this is turning into less of my video about the American Stitching Gang, and more about my YouTube channel. Hey, shameless self-promotion, but hey, I have a Twitter, and kinda a Discord server-ish. I don't have a Discord server, I think it's banned. I don't know why, my server got taken down, but I think I might have to make a separate video on that. But yeah, I have a Discord account and Twitter. It's @CreativeCommunist420. Go follow. But let's move on to Midnight. So Midnight pulled. So how we even got Midnight's name? It was based off. This was a huge running joke, and I said, I want to pick an edgy name for an engine, and something that kind of goes with the trend he pulls. And Apex suggested Midnight. I was like, or Dark Midnight X. Or okay, so in the Goof series, it was gonna be like very Family Guy-ish, but and his original name was gonna be XX Goofball. Or no, it was XX Dark Midnight 16XX. It was gonna be like some edgy gamer name, but when it came to the Sudrian Tales, I was like, well, I don't want him to be necessarily Luke, which was going to be his original name, which was a reference to the full Buccaneers, which was an older train series that inspired me to create the Sudrian Tales. And now my heater's going on in the background. It won't shut up. And now I gotta speak louder. I don't think so, probably because it's my mic plugged in. It possibly may work, so yeah. And I can kind of at least lean far away and stay as far from my mic, and it can still probably pick that all up. But yeah. But we decided to change it back to Midnight. We just moved the XXX Midnight 16XXXXX. And we just had it had his name be Midnight. So on to Midnight's history in the Sudrian Tales. Midnight was built in the early 20s, being the Sun Pacific's first GS4. Or no, he was built the last of the GS4 series built. And then was withdrawn in 1951 after an accident wreck where he came off some points, and Sun Pacific was modernizing the railroad with the F units and Alco PAs, and basically the Sun Pacific was like, yeah, he has no chance of being restored, but we'll hold him until someone wants a preservation wants to buy him. If not, we'll just throw him to a scrapyard into a deadline and have him get cut up later. So unfortunately, no one bought him until he was getting ready to literally be cut up at the last moment. So at this time, Midnight had his couplers, his original tender was gone because he was an oil burner, and then he later got converted back to a coal burner. His cab, half of his boiler missing, and by the time they were just about to take off his smoke deflectors he used to have, because he used to be a smoke deflector, he used to have smoke deflectors on him. Fat Controller was like, hey, stop, we'll buy that engine because we need a heavy goods engine / passenger train to help on our line. And Midnight has heard of Sodor before because he's heard like the S-160s that Sun Pacifica had talk about Sodor and how they were armored trains during the war. He kind of heard about it, and he was honestly surprised he was shipped over. So Midnight had a new boiler, new cab, new tender. I'm debating, Top of Hat is currently debating if he wants to give smoke deflectors. And then he got a whole new tender and was converted into a coal burner. So this pre-war time daylight livery, which was red, orange, and black. And just now recently I added the silver handrails on him. And he was made with like some Brico steamer. I think it's called Brico Big Black Steamer. So honestly, I can make this a part 2 because this is going on for like 25 minutes. And I think I wasted so much time on the 3 that I can just kind of do Nathan, Connor, and Caitlin in a part 2, and then do the Diesels and Bo all together. Or I think I might just do Nathan, Connor, Caitlin, and Bo's. But yeah, see you later. Goodbye. Okay, look, I did say that I was technically gonna upload part 2, but I just figured add it all one into a video and I can get this done, and I'm pretty sure I can get all of this done within like probably 15-20 minutes, because by the looks of this is turning out to be a 1 hour possibly a 1 hour video. If not, it takes me 30 minutes, and I have to find an hour of music, which is going to be hard to do. So without further ado, let's try to not make this go for 30 minutes, as I have lots to review. So yeah, without further ado, let's go. Starting off strong with the twins themselves, Connor and Caitlin. Connor and Caitlin were built in the 1930s and received their streamlined casing in 1931. They were assigned to pull the 20th Century Limited, which was a heavy passenger train, express passenger train on the New York Central. And so they would only have 2 years of service after Connor convinced Nathan to do something that Nathan doesn't. So Connor convinced Nathan. So okay, Nathan and Connor are like very much best friends. They're like a bond that cannot be unbroken, or could possibly be unbroken, or as Caitlin described it, possibly more than friends. Now, I'm not confirming anything about Connor and Nathan. I don't speak the truth. But in all seriousness, Connor is bisexual. When I assign sexualities to characters, 90% of the time, like, God, where is 90% of the time, I mean it, but like, if someone pulls me into the argument about, like, Brian being gay and Stu being asexual, it's up to the people, honestly. I don't care it's basically, yeah, they're my engines, but Connor and Caitlin are my original characters, but, you know, they're like, they're characters in my show, and so, it's people's personal opinion if they want them to be gay, if you want so-and-so to be this sexuality. But yeah, like I was saying, in all seriousness, Connor is bisexual. Nathan is straight, but we'll get onto him later. So, Connor is very protective over Caitlin because Connor did something very stupid that got both of them withdrawn. That's why they were only in service for 2 years. So, in 1945, Connor and Caitlin were reassigned to Pasadena Commuter Works, and were only following the limited as back of engines. Now, what were they doing until then? Either heavy coal drags, or banking or on commuter trains or commuter passenger trains. And so eventually in 1945 the limited has failed when two diesels, or well, when there was a steam engine pulling it. Or no, I got the story wrong because I have the script right in front of me and I'm still ducking everything up. I'm still messing everything up with the script right in front of me. So, in 1945, New York Central was doing trials with diesels. And the thing was, these were two new diesels, very expensive, and somehow managed to get approved by the War Department. Well, okay, which was fine. Well, that's fine. You might be wondering. Connor might not be accepting the fact he's being replaced. Well, yeah, he's that. Not only that, but he cares for his twin sister, and then, well, let's just say he purposely drilled a few miles ahead of Nathan, forcing him to stop, and because Nathan was pulling a long tanker train, and unfortunately the limited was coming by and smashed into Nathan's tanker train, killing the two, not necessarily killing the two diesels, but putting them in a consciousness. And then eventually the two diesels were scrapped, but their consciousness was back into two engines that were, they were salvaged parts from these two diesel locomotives and to build these two new diesels. And so when they were reincarnated, there's like, they talk about the limited and all like their last final moments about it. Well, Connor really traumatizes Nathan from this experience. Nathan thinks, I'll go more into depth about Nathan, but Nathan thinks he accidentally killed two of these diesels. Even though technically Connor did, but sabotaging the trains. Well, alright, so the investigation was looked in, and Connor was talking to some sus among us. He was talking to some very, very, very sus people, by the way. And so when they looked into, the New Yorkers were looking into the accident, and they said, well, Connor's points were sabotage, and the points to have Nathan back up and switch to the online was sabotage. And it's just clearly seen that the communication was jammed by a prototype called the scanner jammer, which was something supposed to be used in the war. And so, when they finally found out who it was, the guy was like a bloody psychopathic murderer during the Prohibition, and then he was found in like charges of assault, murder, and terrible crimes. He was put on death row, and he shot himself with a cop's gun when he tried to break out of prison to go find Connor. Now, you might be wondering how Connor found this guy. Well, his crew, this was his fireman's son. His oldest son, when his fireman was like wanting to quit the job and go join the army, which oddly enough is a strange change of careers. He openly admits to having Connor purposely derail, why Connor did not plan on derailing that day. All he really did was to plan on making the limited late and not really having all the having passengers dying, two diesels almost dying, and Nathan being traumatized. But yeah, so his fireman was arrested, sentenced 50 years inside, and he would break out again and is on the run. No one knows where he's at. But he is coming to look for Connor and give him paper. When he openly admits this to an odd steam generator named Hotnitude, which was this old Japanese steam generator that was in the scrapyard during the war, Hotnitude tells Connor, like, alright, look, I know I'm going to be restored soon to a proper locomotive like I was. A Hotnitude is actually Hero. Now, I try to make Hotnitude sound like just something in, like, just some, like, a Japanese name, kind of like. And I was told Hotnitude was like, because my grandfather fought in the Pacific Theater, and I forgot which regiment specifically. I need to ask my grandfather about it. But he ran into this boy called Hotnitude, and he always remembered because, like, this kid ran away from his family. It's quite odd. I'll probably have to ask him to tell me the story so I can, like, tell the story in a different video. So Hotnitude is technically here on my AU, just turned into a steam boiler after the war. So Hotnitude says, like, right, I'm almost done being restored into a steam locomotive. He gets restored into Hero, or as the Iowa Interstate Chinese steam locomotive, but in reality he's from Japan. But he's just rebuilt into this Chinese steam locomotive, like this 210 from China. It was sold off to the Iowa Interstate Railroad. So the Fat Controller, who is looking for a heavy mainline train to help with freight and passenger work, Topham goes up to Hero and he says, I know 3 engines she could probably find at this scrapyard. Connor, Caitlin, and they know another engine who I really met and got to know well before he was towed off to another scrapyard. And so Stumhouse goes to that scrapyard, buys Connor and Caitlin, and then later buys Nathan when they finally find him. And it's really then, because this is what makes Connor really, like, kinda, like, looks at Nathan more than a friend, because, like, Nathan was, like, taking in parts taken off of him, and scrap merchants came instead of having Connor. Like, Connor's streamlined casing was eventually cut off, but Nathan took the brunt of all the blast. He had his boiler, tubes, all that stuff sawn off, and, like, literally by the end of the day, it was literally nothing left but just his boiler on the ground, and then his smoke box. Then his smoke deflector just came off, so it was literally just this small smoke, literally. But I'll get more into that for Nathan's. And then surprisingly, he starts slowly getting restored when he gets shipped out and slowly starts getting restored very, very quickly and very, very efficiently. And he gets shipped out to Sodor, where Connor was getting his streamlined case and put back on, getting like re-streamlined, as well as Caitlyn, by the way. If Nathan was not taking the brunt of the blasters, Connor really was trying to be like Nathan, take most of the message blasters, so Caitlyn was not too badly damaged. So Caitlyn, so that's not honestly enough about Connor, because I can go on and on for him forever. Like, for God's sake, I literally start with him and like the video, it's like almost into like the 15-minute mark, and this is just for Connor. I think this might end up being a 1-hour video. So for Caitlyn is this very, very innocent girl. Caitlyn is like a very young, enjoyable girl. Like, she wants to just laugh, play. She has like a lot of her childhood innocence still left in her. Like, Lisa said, and like someone like than Connor. Like, she's very excited and in general very upbeat, happy, and like, cause like when pulling a quote from a workman's book, or note from a workman quote being quote. This was supposed to be right on an next episode, by the way. Being quote. Well, we were driving the new Class 55 Deltic, idling in the yard waiting for passengers to get on board, and we say they almost gave Fritz a heart attack when Caitlyn came wishing by, trying to secure Deltic. Poor Deltic almost blew smoke, dirty fuel smoke, almost sprang on a couple of passengers. Caitlyn apologized profusely. Deltic played it off. So, and I could not stop laughing at Fritz from him literally falling out of Deltic's chair and hitting his head on the controls. That Caitlyn, she's something. Caitlyn really loves to sneak up behind people and just scare them. Another one says like she did this to Spam Can or 19 Diesel D199, and Connor was in the yard, and literally Connor like ran up to him, threw him against the buffers, threw him into the shed, taking out the wall of the shed, a single-sided shed, by the way, and like starts cussing him out and threatening to like throw him off a cliff. It took Nathan and Midnight and Comet and Stewie and Brian to get him to calm him down, and they were up well into like the next day, like almost 12 p.m. the next day. This happened around at 6 p.m. In the evening. So almost 12 hours. 12. That's not even 12 hours. But basically a long time. And all over Caitlyn, to be honest. They're siblings, and Connor really just likes Caitlyn, and that's gonna step right out of context. Connor likes to protect Connor likes to protect Caitlyn, innocent, and just he eventually does teach her yeah, we shouldn't be like that's why we're withdrawn, even though Connor's hiding the truth from the real reason why they're withdrawn from Caitlyn. And Caitlyn starts to slowly pick up on Connor's crush on Nathan, and she teases him relentless about this, almost leading to a couple times this led to Nathan almost finding out a couple of times. It took heavy convincing to to find out he lied to Nathan straight up about dating a Great Northern single that was visiting the line. Then the second time, he lied and said that an LNRJ 36 named Marood, saying that he had a crush on her, even though he didn't. So in general, Caitlin's just this young childhood innocent, just this young innocent girl who just wants to live her life. And we kind of see like this reason why Connor's very strict. Like, you can kind of see in some episodes you can see why she's chastising Caitlin about being late, or like even though Connor might be there like 5 to 10 minutes early, he'll lie to Rebecca. He'll lie to Caitlin about being late and trying to make up for it. Especially in that one episode with like him and Gordon. So honestly, that's Connor and Caitlin, to be honest. So I did not expect them to take up like 20 minutes of the video, but oh god, I just realized that I had to do Nathan. That's gonna like take up probably like almost twice as long. Oh shit, what time is it? It's like 9:53 and I feel like shit. I don't know why I'm now just announcing this. I tested positive with COVID. So yeah. I think we'll start with Bo, because like he's the shortest one. I could probably describe, if I can describe Bo in one word, that would be just, well, autistic. Bo has a slight sense of autism where like he's not really on the spectrum. He's kind of like, Bo's kind of like me, where like he's on the spectrum but not too badly, like nothing too deep. Bo is a Baltimore, Ohio 040 dockside shunter, and he really is used to yards, and like he's like very smart when it comes to positioning trains. So like he'll say, okay, move this goods train to track 3, or move this passenger train to track 5. Therefore, we can just weave between them, and it'll be way more more efficient. And so that's really just Bo summed up. He was withdrawn in 1958. I'm not 1948, and was shipped over to Soto 1949 because his restoration did not take too long. So yeah, he was withdrawn in 1948 and restored in 1949, and then was shipped over in 1950. So, moving on to Nathan. Wow, I just gave Nathan this New York City livery, like on the tender. Nathan goes by the number 4422, and believe it or not, Nathan is actually inspired by the San Juan branch line Nathan, the Mohawk. And so, well, unfortunately, he ends up being sent away after he does something stupid. I recommend watching the San Juan branch line, even though I should be promoting my own crap. I don't mind promoting the San Juan branch line because I watch it a lot. 10 out of 10 storytelling. So, really, for Nathan, Nathan was built in 1939, and he was great friends with Connor, even though Connor's kind of a few years experience on him. He taught him much about knowledge of freight cars and coal drags. So, believe it or not, Nathan somewhat has an idea about Connor, and he knows like why he's very protective of Caitlyn. And I lied when Nathan. I don't even think I even said that. Nathan knows Connor has a crush on him, but he's just waiting for Connor to admit to that. He wants to teach Connor that it's not good being overprotective of someone, and you need to let loose. And he loved Connor as much as he literally simps over Nathan. As much as he loves Connor basically as well as much as Connor loves Nathan. God, I don't know why that was so hard to get out. Nathan again is bi. He dated. It's coincidentally that he dated not Caitlyn, but another Hudson, a specific Royal Hudson. He dated the Sun Pacific 2399, I believe that's the running board of the engine. My AU, that locomotive's name is Isabella, and when she used to do rail tours from Met in the United States, and just Nathan developed crush or developed feelings, and dated her a few years before she was joined due to some problems in their axle, and then a couple months later, the incident happens with the two diesels and the tanker. So Nathan was traumatized by this. He does not know, and there goes my heater again, acting up. Alright, cool. So I'm also tired. So, oh god. So Nathan is traumatized, and he thinks he has killed these two diesels. Well, lo and behold, Stophat knows about Connor and Nathan's like past with the two diesels. And so basically, in the end of the episode, we see 1A and 2A, who are later going to get names, and when they mention they brought 1B. Basically, 1B does not talk. 1B is like 1A and 2A's imaginary friend, kind of in the sense. So basically, Nathan thinks he has killed these two innocent diesels, just trying to prove their worth. Nathan understands, like, hey, I'll eventually be withdrawn and scrapped. Because originally, like, Nathan's kinda like, another friend of mine who remained unnamed. He doesn't have a specific religion belief. He just believes like, hey, we're just like a bag of flesh with bones in it on this earth that's rotating, and that will eventually be destroyed millions of years later. That's basically Nathan, like, and he's not really scared to death, but like he just understands, like, when it's his time to come, it's his time to come. But he was very traumatized, and like he was withdrawn because the fire was too bad, and like his crew were instantly killed. When it came to the scrapyard, he was taking the brunt of the blast and was literally like getting salvaged practically every single day, and it was just like very, very sad. And yes, why Caitlyn was getting picked up. It was common to hear like Nathan's, like, they literally would move Nathan to other side of the yard, and he would like scream so loud because it hurts, like getting parts getting taken off of him, that Connor and Caitlin would literally, like, by the time they're back and they'll see like the state he's in, they would like Connor would be crying the most out of honest than Caitlin. So, like I said, he literally was taken down to just his smoke box, and like both his smoke deflectors gone. Jesus, this video is now like almost 30 minutes. So, especially making this video almost an hour, explaining the Sudrian gang, the American Sudrian gang. But yeah, so Nathan was eventually was bought in 1948, was brought over 1953, and was restored in 1953, shipped over in early 1954. So yeah, that's Nathan. Let's do my 2D, so 3 diesels, and that's it for the night, honestly. So we'll start out with, well, Solomon. Solomon is a GP20. I have no backstory from him, just he works on the Baltimore, Ohio, pulling like freight trains. That's really about it. Like, honest to God, that's all I have for his story. Like I say, so here's 1B. Here's 1B, 1A, and 2A. God, this paint smells fresh because they just got done drying. Like, I literally just painted like since the start of just got done finished painting them at the start of the video. And I'm surprised they're all dry. But these were the 2 diesels that were killed, or like not really killed, but knocked unconscious by Nathan. They were parts were slowly getting restored while their consciousness was getting transferred into these Alca PAs that were being rebuilt after a heavy accident as well. And so they get shipped to Sodor because the top hat's looking for some American diesels, and same thing as Solomon. All 3 of them get shipped together, as well as the B unit. They all get shipped over, and they're like, they just go on each other and talk about their history. I've been ranting for way too long. I have to put this video together and add so much music. Oh my god, I'm gonna have so much fun. Oh Jesus, I think I might just have like the tracks I have added on repeat. Or I could possibly get away with like a top 10 mix on the no copyright sound. Again, I'm sorry for literally rambling for literally like almost a whole hour. But in all seriousness, this has been the first episode of my Sudrian headcanon, and I hope you did enjoy it. Once again, I apologize for literally almost taking up a whole hour. But goodbye, my fellow comrades. Subscribe or I will put a 5-year plan on you. But yeah, go follow me on Twitter and all that crap. Like I was saying, subscribe and I will enact a 5-year plan on you. That's right, man. Douchebag streamer ending.